That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Okay, and my final thing to talk about this week is just Zorro. Zorro. Like, Zorro in Old California. There we go. This is something it's more for kids, but not like in a Dora the Explorer kids book kind of way. It's more all ages kind of book. And it feels just like episodes of the television show, just shorter. That's all that's going on here is like, and everything is meant to very much look like the Guy Williams television show. I'll see if we can find a good panel of, yeah, there's like Garcia. He looks a lot like he did in the show. Let's see if we can find a good panel of Diego or Zorro. Alright, I know there's something about that. Oh wait, here's Zorro. Looks just like Guy Williams. I didn't pay attention to that. Oh, there's a closer up. Zorro looks just like Guy Williams. So yeah, it's meant to very much be the Disney show. That being said, I liked some of it. I had one major problem with one of the stories. And it's not exclusive to this book. Though kind of. Alright, so how do I go about this? There's a video, I'll put a link in the description. You can see me dressed up like Zorro, so it should make your day. There's a video I did about a year ago just talking about some thoughts I had on the Disney Zorro show. And I should face the microphone so you can actually hear me. I just talking about some thoughts that I had, some feelings and thoughts that I had on the Disney Zorro show, which I do love. But the problem with that show is every major villain was a corrupt politician. Or military man or whatever. And Zorro would always just beat them in the name of true justice or the king's law. But if every villain is with the government, and Zorro is supposed to be a champion of the people, then guess what? Zorro needs to realize the government's fucked. And it's not like he was fighting the American government. I mean, come on, motherfucker was fighting Spanish California, one of the most tyrannical, rules in history. There's a reason there was a Mexican Revolution. So the show never really dealt with it. There was, one, character whose arc over a couple episodes, he was trying to start a rebellion and Zorro didn't want him to do that. And that was certainly problematic, but it was more just about the guy being angry and the laws being mistreated. It just needed to be, the laws needed to be distributed justly, and everybody would be fine. So it's a little weak. It's certainly problematic, but it's not out and out bad. But then this story, and that was about the closest that the Disney Zorro show ever got to doing anything with the Mexican Revolution. Which, if you don't know about anything about the Mexican Revolution, there's a reason, and you should look into it. Spanish Revolution too. So in this episode, or in this one story, we get 4 stories in here, which I did quite like. In this one story, Zorro is captured by some Mexican rebels. And they have this exchange. What do you want from me, Senor Zampa? Well, you see, my goal is to free California of the yoke of the Spanish king and to establish the Republic. Don't you think that will take planning and time? No, senor, the time is now. I need only you. Your promise is immense. Your prestige is immense. You could help our cause. You're right. I am against injustice, but I prefer to defend the people in my own way. I am sorry, but count me out of your scheme. How unfortunate. And then he locks Zorro up. And the guy's plan is to kill the governor. You can say a lot of things about Zorro. You can't say that he's peaceful in his fight for justice. He's, depending on your version, to some extent the Guy Williams version. He had no desire to go out and kill people, but people did die fighting Zorro in that show. You have, Zorro's one of the more brutally real superheroes. You watch the Mask of Zorro, he cuts a dude's neck. Right from the very beginning, leaving his mark was not cutting clothing. He would Zorro is the original I'll cut you kind of guy. That's where that stereotype comes from. Zorro was that guy. So there's a certain sense of a grittiness to Zorro, and that's not entirely in the Guy Williams Disney show. That is a much lighter series. He never cuts someone's skin, only leaves his mark in clothing. It's a much more lighthearted series, certainly. But they had the sense not to do anything like this, because when you put Zorro in the place of, and he protected governors and governmental officials before, but that's because he knew they were innocent, or that the person trying to kill them wasn't doing it for the right reasons, but was doing it because they wanted personal profit or something out of it. Guy Williams Zorro certainly did that. But again, the show had the sense not to have Zorro approached by Mexican rebels and ask him to join the fight, and then have him tell them no and stop them from starting off the revolution. That's a problem. Revolutions are ugly, certainly. So you either don't have Zorro involved, which I think is problematic to do, especially if you're having him fight people who are the oppressors they're the oppressors because they're in governmental roles. So you either don't have Zorro fight, which is a bad option. You have Zorro refuse to fight, but to be morally supportive. He's there to protect justice, and in his mind, justice is not picking a side. Justice is being the most just. And you could have made that work here, but this isn't a long enough story to where it does. So that's obviously my preference. Or the third one is you turn Zorro into a full-on revolutionary, which could work too. It's just you need to make sure that he takes a good stance against it, or a good stance, and is a very critical rebel. You could do that with Zorro. You could have him be supportive of the revolution, but also really stand by and keep them honest, as it were, so that they do the right things. You can't have him be by any means necessary kind of rebel, and that would bother a lot of people. So I prefer the idea that he doesn't support the crown. He doesn't necessarily support the revolution beyond any just, yes, we need justice. I am perfectly fine with Zorro just fighting for justice, but he has to have a very clear definition of what that is. And so this one story is the most I have to say about this whole book, because a lot of it is just, fairly lighthearted stuff. There's the magistrate hatches a plan. Zorro foils it some way or another and makes him look like a fool and cracks a joke. The perfect, they're fighting on rooftops. Magistrate falls in the water. Zorro goes, the perfect spot for your morning bath. Help, Sergeant, I can't swim. stuff like that. There's some sweet moments too. Uh, like Zorro's seeing these two off as they go to like sail away to escape the magistrate, and she goes, "Just a minute, just a minute. Do you know that I've guessed who's hiding behind the mask? Let me whisper it in your ear." And so he leans in close and she kisses him on the cheek and runs away. Never to see him again. He does the whole Zorro on the back of Tornado thing. So that was cool. And then there's, some other just fun stuff. Zorro dealing with being framed, Zorro dealing with this. It's just cool stuff. I enjoyed it to one extent or another. What was this last story about? I forget. Oh, Zorro had to break his father out of jail and defeat the magistrate and blah blah blah. Yeah, like it's just fun. If you really like the Disney show, you would like this, and it's worth picking up because it's not like really really super childish or anything. It's more just a fun action book, more than anything else. It's not really saying much of anything. It's no Amnesty for Zorro, which if you're gonna watch any episode of the Disney Zorro show, watch Amnesty for Zorro. It's no Amnesty for Zorro, but it's certainly got some, fun, sweet, cool moments. It's really just reminiscent of what made the Guy Williams show really fun, which is all it's trying to be. Again, I just have problems with Zorro and Revolution in the same story. You gotta really know what you're doing, and it's pretty clear the writer didn't think it through. There are major implications with that, and the writer just clearly wasn't thinking about it. Eclipse Books. I don't think there's a writer credit here anyway. By Nedaud and Marcello. So yeah, first names only. Yeah, I don't know. I quite enjoyed it. It's fun. It's certainly a fun book. I'm glad I got it. I think I got this for like $4 or $5 anyway. So, anything Zorro in comics, I'll pick up more or less. I don't want to say that too hard because there might be some really, really bad Zorro comics, I'm sure. But yeah, always fun to get some Zorro, and I enjoyed that.
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.